Okay, on a piece of bread will buy a bag of gold. The more I look at it, the more it looks like just massive inflation. Because the dollar's worth less, so gold would be worth less in relation to everything, and apparently bread is going to become scarce if they try to feed the whole world too. So I think that there's going to be major inflation, and that's going to be the bag of gold. There is just not worth that much because it's under extreme inflation, and everything is worth more ones, more and more gold. Um, but it also indicates that there's going to be a shortage in farming, or maybe floods or something like that that could make the the wheat, the bread, go down to where it's harder to produce or something. Because right now we we pretty much see where bread's not that expensive. Maybe in other countries, some of the poorest countries, bread is expensive. So it may be a piece of bread will buy a bag of gold, but I think the main thing they're talking about there is actually inflation. And I think it's something that we didn't see until recently, because we weren't looking for a virus to end it in the world. We weren't looking for a virus to come and wipe all these people's lives out, death and hell or whatever. We weren't expecting, a virus to come do all that and mess with the economy and mess with the lives. But even though we weren't expecting it, sometimes, and it may be what there is, and it may be that it's capable of causing more inflation than we think too. Because I have heard a lot of countries are just printing money, so it's going to be worldwide, whatever it is. So even if it's not buying a bag of gold, it's inflation, which is headed that way. Now, during the Great Depression, there was such, and they're comparing it to the Great Depression. And if it is to be compared to the Great Depression back then, a piece of bread would probably buy a bag of gold, because they lived off potatoes and whatever else could be farmed easily. Um, but it's very possible that, a small bag of gold, a piece of bread, or, well, not a piece of bread, but, like a loaf or a day's wages would buy, a measure of wheat or whatever, a gallon. I think a measure of wheat is like so many gallons that they're talking about. So that should buy flour for the penny that they're talking about there. It should be enough to buy like a week's worth of flour in a day's wages. So there will be enough to eat, apparently, but it's just going to be expensive. Now, where we stay and different things like that, that becomes more difficult because people don't have the means to live at that point. And I think it is going to get to that point where the individual people don't have the means to live because the corporations are going to take it all, and not give to their employees or whatever because they need it themselves to beat the inflation for sales and whatnot, to beat the inflation. So the wages are just going to go down and down and down. And so not only will wages have gone down, but inflation will have gone up. So it's gonna be several things, I think, hitting us at the same time that have all to do with the international market, which we're not going to get out of because, see, the mark of the beast takes you into the international market. Um, but instead, we'll be put there with a bunch of poorer countries, and they're vying for their lives too. So they're not going to give that money up very easily if they get, you know, a week's worth of food for a day's wages. They're going to go for that. And it may be that we kind of like use them to do minor work for us, for like our companies and whatnot, that they use them. So to get money back, that they use them to get money back because they can pay them like They pay the people that make clothes in foreign countries. They don't pay them very well, in the sweatshops and whatnot. But I think it's going to be that way again for them, but they're going to be happy about it because they're going to be guaranteed food, and wheat, to be specific. And that may be part of where some of our wheat goes to, is to them. And if we have any kind of wheat crisis, that they could very easily get to where it is in the Great Depression, or to where it was in the Great Depression.